There we go. Just in case there's ever somebody ask a question that I might have missed or something, occasionally I'll go back and just double check I heard something correctly. Okay, any other questions before we go into just our check-ins? All right, so let's just check in with each other tonight at just a couple of minutes. What are you working on? Where could we support you? Stephanie, we're going to start with you with Bristol. And I think you just muted yourself, Stephanie.
We are working on still coordinating. We had this big commission swearing in, and now we come back with the struggle of getting everyone to attend meetings so we can get some work done. We committed, some of them committed to an extra executive meeting, and then it was time to do the executive meeting. No one was available. So my hope is at this point, I'm simplifying my goals because my time is running out to at least fill all of these spots. So then we have a full commission, and if some don't show, then we have some enough to have a quorum to be able to get some things done. You know, other than that, we continue to partner with other agencies in the city as well as the county, anything that supports women, voting rights. We did protest over the summer in the Taunton Green. I participated in the protest down in New Bedford with Planned Parenthood. We have a group out here called the Women's Alliance, Southeast Women's Alliance Group, and it's a conglomerate of pretty much every agency out here dealing with women and women's issues. So what I've done in the past year or two is just tag along with them, and when they need support, you know, I come and I show support with that. So it's reviving our commission, getting energy so we can get some things done. We do have some new blood. Tanya is very serious about getting the young girls junior leadership commission going. And so that is going to most likely be a priority for January. And other than that, getting ready for elections and outreach. And now the biggest thing is we do have 12 applications. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited and a little jealous because they'll all be coming on as I'm leaving. So I'll have a full team, but I'm not the team anymore. And that's it in Bristol.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And yeah, you've got a big transition, which I know that Amanda, there were a couple of you that went through really big transitions last year. Here comes Augur. Let me let her in. So just know, but let me just put this out on your radar for right now, and I'll talk about it more probably as we get toward the end of the year, first of the year. But I am aware we've got a lot of transition happening on a couple of commissions. So I intend to, for anyone that's interested, I'm going to be running a regional chair / vice chair training, because I'm also aware that leaders are, you know, somebody's going to raise their hand that may not have ever chaired a board or a commission before. Some of you have a lot of experience in doing that, but not everybody does. So that's something I anticipate kicking out probably January, but if I can do it earlier, I will, but January. And then new regional commissions. I also know from attending your meetings, I'm kind of hearing that some of our new commissioners have a lot of questions. So I think I'm going to do a big orientation for this next group of commissioners that comes in, and also open it up to the ones that came in the spring that might want to join, that feel like they still have a lot of questions. So I'm going to offer, keep an eye in January for those two events. Thank you, Stephanie. Let's move to Eastern Regional. Amanda.
Good evening. Not much update. We had our first meeting. We've kind of shifted towards the end of the month. So we met at the end of September. We are kind of having a similar issue, right, of finding time to get quorums. And even though we may find the right date, we might not find times that crossover. We are planning on doing in a retreat at the end of October as well. And at that, we will be doing elections too for this upcoming year. And then kind of trying to focus on what we want to maybe focus on a topic and then start to reach out to the community and hear what aspect of that big umbrella topic that we need to focus on.
Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate that. Metro West, let's go to Stephanie Deely.
Hi, everyone. We have spent at our last meeting a long time talking about the attendance issue. And two of our commissioners decided that they really can't make the commitment. So we are looking for two more, but we do have 4 applicants. So hopefully that's going to work out. We have our Athena Council lost some of their members who graduated from high school. So we have 5 new Athena Council girls. They've had 1 meeting already, and they're doing their first retreat to kind of connect with each other this coming weekend. We recently did our second Metro West Read event, which was on stories about Hispanic women. Our next one will be on the LGBTQ community. That date is in early November. We did the walk to support Voices Against Violence. This is our 5th year that we have participated in that event. It's a domestic violence, sexual assault service center in Metro West. So we've been supporting their work for several years. We are also planning in December, and this is the biggest thing like this that we have done. We're planning an event in December to support domestic violence is one of our key topics this year and last year. So we're doing an event in December where we're going to have comedians. We're asking the high school to submit art from the students that will be on the walls. We're going to have a couple of bands that are local that are going to participate. We're going to ask people to bring a donation of toys or gifts or a donation for a food pantry. We just are working right now to confirm a location, and then we'll have a date. We hope to have that done by the end of December. So that's what we have coming up for big events. And I think that's about it for us.
Thank you. Always a lot going on in Metro West. Thank you. Let's go to Hampshire Franklin. Let's go to Jen. Just give us a brief update.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Ortiz. I am newly appointed. I'm standing in for Marcia. And we received our resource guides. We had been putting those together. So we received those and we started handing them out. Victoria is the secretary. She and I attended an event at Smith College. We handed out some of those resource guides to the students that were involved with the Jandon Center. We also have a hearing coming up on October 17th. It's a public hearing with local legislators. And so I believe we have like 7 or 8 that have already RSVP to the event. And it's just, pretty much an open forum for individuals to come and talk about any pressing needs or issues affecting women and girls, things like that, any questions, concerns, comments they might have. So that's like our biggest thing. That's October 17th from 6:30 to 8:30. I think that's pretty much it for now.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good job. All right. Cape and the Islands, Linda.
2 things. We just held a listening circle in Orleans. We're trying to get down to the other side of the Cape, and we co-sponsored it with NAMI of Cape Cod. And our keynote speaker was Cindy Horgan, who was the executive director of A Children's Place. And it was pretty well attended. We had a pretty good time. We got a lot of good information on it. So we're going to be writing up a report and we'll share it with state. I think the other thing we're working on right now is we also have commissioners that have expressed that they are a little bit at sea as to what it is their expectations of them are, etc., which we are looking at putting together our own training session. And we are also going to be stressing, as we interview possible candidates, attendance requirements and their own responsibilities, that they're supposed to read our bylaws. They're supposed to pick a working group, and they have to attend meetings, and they have to work outside of the commission to put our mission moving forward. And we're finding, or I am finding, that there seem to be people who are coming on and it's an hour meeting, yappy-do, but then they don't participate in working groups. So we have no legislative group that's moving anything forward. So we're going to start getting, I think, a lot more clearer with possible candidates and see if we can go from the kumbaya bit to this is a real working operation.
Thank you very much, Linda. I appreciate that. Upper Middlesex.
All right, good evening, ladies of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. How's it going? Michelle in North Reading. I got a lot of good news for our commission. Right now we're at, we're a full commission. We have all our members, and everyone that was up for reappointment wanted to stay on. So I feel like that's going to make us really strong in the coming year. And the next step is that we're trying to meet in person. So I posted in the chat, we are having our first coffee with commissioners this weekend in Winchester. I did a quick survey, not on SurveyMonkey, but something else that was cheap or free. So that went well. I am going to try every time we get together, just check in. If the majority of us can meet, then, we go ahead with the date and the time and the location. But I did give, lots of options. So hopefully that keeps working and gets a little bit more kind of streamlined. What else? We gave our commissioners kind of, well, I call it homework, but it's an online training called Feminist Lab. So a lot of videos and background on, diversity, equity, inclusion, and just, if maybe some of them haven't done that training, or if maybe you haven't done it in a while. So it's a good refresher. And then for our upcoming meeting, we have our intern, or Christine Lee, who's working on the Athena Council and getting that up and running. And I'm really excited about that because that will be hopefully turning into building the bench for our future female leadership, future commissioners, future community leaders. So I'm really excited about that. And yeah, that's what we got for Upper Middlesex.
Thank you very much. And if you don't mind, maybe Connie or you drop the link to Feminist Lab, because I think that's actually quite a nice program if anybody else is interested in looking at that. Thank you.
Great.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Carolyn from Plymouth. Let's see, oh, there you go.
Hi, sorry, dinner just got ready, and so I'm running around doing 10 things at once. So I am the acting chair right now. We have our meeting on the 15th, and I plan to not run for full-time chair because it is a lot for me right now. So we are down 3 commissioners. To my knowledge, I believe that everyone is going to stay on and be reappointed. And if you've heard anything else, Tina, I would love to hear, but I'm pretty sure everybody is. Did you hear anything?
Nope, I think you're good. I think everybody,
Awesome.
I believe everybody's staying on.
Okay, great. So then we'll have one potential opening because we did receive 2 excellent candidates. We're very excited. So we plan to evaluate them on the 15th. And get our scorecards over. We applied for our grant, and we intend to have a listening session. As of right now, we're hoping to do it both virtually and in person. And So with that funding, if we receive it, that will go to pay for that. And the data that we collect, we intend to use to implement a legislative tea sometime over the winter with our legislators on Beacon Hill. So we tried to do this in 2020. We tried to do it in 2021, but it's just the way that the State House had opened late. So we're hoping it really happens, because we put a lot of thought into our prep for it, and then so it's just kind of on the back burner. So but we plan to have that, and that's where we are right now. And let's see, we had our guide printed. I think I said this during last month's. Our guide was printed, bound. It's been distributed to half of our town halls so far, a little bit more than half. And then some councils on aging, senior centers, a few outpatient clinics. And what I've been finding is that delivering these in person, I'm making so many networking connections for the commission, and so many potential partners for future events. Just stopping at, say, for example, I stopped at Hull Town Hall, and I walked in and I said, hi. I went to the clerk's office and I said, hi, I'm here to give this, guide to, I don't know where to leave it. And the clerk was like, go upstairs to our public nurse, our town public health nurse, have a chat with her. So I went upstairs. She was so excited to receive the guide. And, she was flipping through it. She was like, you know who you should contact this person, contact this person. And I went to these different places. I went to the Anchor House and distributed to individuals who run a recovery program for men and women. And so it was fantastic. So I feel like this is an opportunity for us to branch out, not only to get our name out there, because we're a relatively new commission, only 4 years old, and also makes connections, but also to be able to get more voices heard in our community, to bring them in when we have our listening events. So, and that is all. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And there was a question in the chat, because I know Hampshire Franklin, Jen, thank you for putting that in there. And Plymouth did a resource guide. That was part of a project both of those commissions did in the spring. And I don't know if either of you have the PDF versions. If you do, if you wouldn't mind dropping them in the chat, or I can follow up in a follow-up email. But again, that's a project.
I don't have the finalized version.
Okay.
Victoria might have it.
Okay, great. I think I might even have it too, but I can always follow up. But that's just kind of a project those two commissions took on in the spring. And it is, you're right, Carolyn, it's a very good networking tool. And you put together your own resource, kind of your resource guide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an intern helping us, and she double checked all the, local phone numbers and addresses to make sure everything was up to date. So it's a very tedious project, but super helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, now that I think about it, on the state website, I'll try to grab that link real quickly. Under Hampshire Franklin, we uploaded the PDF version, so you all can take a look. And Carolyn, maybe I'll try to hook up and get your PDF version, because we can add yours also.
Mm-hmm. That would be great.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Hampden County, Shanique.
Not much to report on our end. We just had our first meeting back from the summer break in September, which was the first meeting with our new chair and with me as vice chair. We had a few commissioners that, a good chunk of commissioners that weren't able to make that meeting just because it was local elections in our region. And so a lot of people were in many different places on the day of our meeting. So this coming meeting, one of the things that we talked about in our last meeting is really focusing our energy this fall and getting ourselves reorganized. One of the challenges that we're facing now is that we want to be having more hybrid meetings, but since pandemic, places that we normally would have had meetings are now closing earlier, specifically our local libraries. Those used to be wonderful places to have meetings. They are no longer having hours in the evenings. So that has presented a challenge that we are trying to overcome, because we would like to start doing at least hybrid meetings in local areas in the region that we cover. We had some ideas about doing some December events centered around the grant process, but a lot of the things that we were thinking of doing wasn't going to work out. And so we are going back to the drawing board next week, which is what our next meeting is, to talk with the commission about what we want to be working on or doing before the holidays, if there's anything at all that we want to be focused on. One other thing that's happening in that meeting coming up is that we've had some commissioners request some special guests to speak about the ballot questions that are coming up on the November 8th ballot, which I think was a wonderful suggestion. So I've been working on getting some guest speakers from some of the ballot questions to come into that meeting to talk to our commissioners about the ballot questions, which I think is going to be useful content as well for people who follow us on Facebook, etc. So I'll make sure that we record that meeting so we can share that on our social media pages for general education. Our challenge will be, I'm really excited that the commission has often offered 2 cycles for grants. We've never had that in the years past. The challenge is we've been so used to getting that grant cycle in the spring that everything we plan and have scheduled to do are all in the spring. And now it's a matter of doing all the things we want to do with the 1 grant cycle. So these are good problems to have. I've been on a commission for a while now, and so I'm not complaining that we have 2 grand cycles and I don't know what to do with the second one. I am not complaining about that. It's amazing to watch our growth. So we're hoping to get ourselves more structured and reorganized. We also have a lot of new commissioners on our committee. And I think Jackie is wise in saying that getting people acclimated to the commission needs to be a priority in this sort of downtime for us. And I think that will be very fruitful for a lot of commissioners who have just recently joined the commission in the last few months with us. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 of us that are OGs on the Hampden County Commission, or I think I'm the only OG, and I think everyone else is like came on during the pandemic, which kind of just means that you're still new in my head because you know nothing. Your experience on the commission is very altered. Listening to Tina talk about like advocacy day and all these things that used to happen is so interesting.
Thank you. And you always do a good job with those speaker series there in Hampden County, Shanique. So thank you so much. Augur, Essex County, welcome.
Sorry, ladies, I apologize. I was speaking to an inmate and I exceeded the time that I allotted. I apologize, but it's good to see everyone. Essex County, what have we been doing? Can everyone say the Ginsburg Initiative? That is what we have been doing. And if you've been on social media in the last couple of weeks, it's been full on Ginsburg Initiative. We were just so blessed to have this incredible young woman, Karishma, who spearheaded and posted, blasted, essentially not just posted, everywhere on social media, the ad. We were seeking young women between the ages of 14 to 22. So finally, we got 17. This is crazy, ladies. 17 more than qualified young women between 14 to 22. And so what we did in the last couple of days actually was 5 of us kind of hunkered down to sort through the applications and kind of like use the rating sheets, the same rating sheet we would typically use for commissioners, to kind of distill which ones would be our top girls to kind of jumpstart this. So that's what we did in the last. We narrowed it down to 10. We wanted it to be ideally 10. And then yesterday we began the interview, the in-person interview. So first candidate was interviewed yesterday, and we have a couple more scheduled later on this week. So that's what we've been doing. Another thing that we've been doing is the outreach program. So we've been visiting a lot of local high schools in the town to sort of like, and that kind of preceded the launch of the ad for the Ginsburg Initiative, like telling them that we're looking for young women who are interested in social justice work, advocacy, and all of that. So we went to a ton of high schools. I personally went to 3, and I have my other commissioners who also kind of reached out to their local high schools. We have an opening coming up, and Tina, thank you so much. I don't know if you sleep at night, but every day that I open my email, it's Tina again. And I'm like, okay, Tina, I do other things other than Essex County Commission. Okay. But yeah, thank you so much. We are going to start reviewing those 4 applicants that you sent. So that's good. So because we have an opening in December, and hopefully we're able to fill that opening. So something that came up last minute this afternoon, and I think one of my sisters just alluded to it, is that we found out that one of our top legislative priority, the Family and Mobility Act, that they're trying to, guys, no. So we are rallying around a speaker series, or at least put out a video. And that was something we were not sure if we can do, because you know how you gotta be careful, partisan lines, just because the person who is spearheading the opposition is clearly. So we're gonna try to do it without mentioning names, just to speak on the validity and viability of that act, the fact that it's actually good for everyone in the Commonwealth. So we're thinking, should we get a speaker, or should we just put out a video? Because it's something that is so important right now, very, very time sensitive too. So that's what just happened this evening. We were kind of texting back and forth. So we applied for our grant. Thank God for our magnificent Brianna Sullivan. This woman, whenever people talk about Essex County, it is because these women go over and above. I swear to God, Brianna did this in less than 72 hours, got this out, and so we did send out our grant application. And then what else? So I think that's pretty much it. That's it for Essex.
Wow. Oh, yeah, very full. I just dropped in the chat the image that I had for the Ginsburg Initiative, which is a good segue into the next piece of our agenda. Because a couple of you have asked about youth advisory councils. So Augur, you've already spoken about the Ginsburg Initiative. So I really appreciate that you checked in around that and how it's coming together. I just dropped the image in the chat, and I also asked Upper Middlesex, and then I'll move to Metro West to our veterans here. But Upper Middlesex, Michelle and Connie, can you, because you're in the process of getting yours going, do you mind speaking about that?
Oh, sure. I can talk about a little bit. I'm so excited to see Ogre's like both initiative launch as well as, you know, your graphic. And I'm like, we have so much to learn from you in terms of, you know, publicizing what to do. But in any case, our groups, you may not have met, but at least, you know, like we have a very young commissioner who was actually our intern when she was in high school. And then, you know, she's in second year in college. So when I talked to her about the Athena project, that was in sorry, I'm like, you know, so she spoke with Heather and, you know, got really excited. So this summer, what she did was basically pull together a council description, what they will do, how they will be mentored, etc. Checked in with me, and the most impressive thing I think is she developed a very inclusive, inviting application that, you know, I think the application itself communicates the inclusiveness that we want to bring to the tone of the commission and what they can actually do. So, you know, we've just been gathering girl-serving organizations as well as youth activist groups in the area, and you know, of course, you know, social media is something like sort of like the next step that we need to do. One of the things that I did was actually reach out to Tina to see if there might be actually any participants from Jelly from April or this year or the year before, but unfortunately, and that speaks to our need to actually have this council. Like there were not very many young people, there weren't any young people who were actually part of that event. So we'll continue to do that. And some of the ideas we've had for this group, Michelle, talked about this Feminist Action Lab learning that we're doing. And one of the goals that we have around this group is also really reinforce the idea of intergenerational work and dialogue. So, we will, when they are formed, invite them to actually also go through some of the learnings that we as our sort of the older commissioners are doing, so that we can actually have some common language and perspectives for us to actually have a conversation with each other and with the community. So really, I think, we in the form or the publication we say collaborate with community organizations, conduct research on pertinent issues, but I think really what we're hoping is for them to actually bring to us what they're most passionate and excited about. The other related to this intergenerational dialogue that I forgot about is a possible project is our other focus is actually on care for elders as well as their caregivers. So there may be a project that we can do connecting young people and those who are older in the community. So that's where we're at. I think this is the month that the next 2 weeks is when we're actually going to push forward with our public publicity about getting them to
Wonderful.
participate.
Thank you so much. And I'm also adding Stephanie Deely from Metro West. There was a really good article, Stephanie, I'm going to have you just speak about it, about the Athena Council. I think a lot of you are familiar with the Athena Council Metro West. So it's our younger group. But go ahead, Stephanie, and kind of tell us just real quickly, how did that come to be? How does it work with your commission? Go ahead.
Sure. It was about 3 years ago that Heather, my co-chair here in the Metro West, came up with the idea to put together a group of young people. And that really came as a result of when we had a couple of public hearings, having a great turnout from younger women. So we thought it was apparent that there was a need or an interest in having a voice. So that was how the idea came about. We put up a basic application. We did a lot of advertising and we filled 10 seats on our initial council. So going into our 3rd year, and our council goes through when they graduate in high school. When we started, we took the age from 14 to graduating from high school. So we lost 5 girls this year who graduated and have gone on to college. So we took in applications again this past summer for new girls. And this year, we let the girls on the existing members of the Athena Council weigh in on who they thought were the best options. We agreed with what they said. And so we send a letter when we appoint them or when we invite them to join the group. They're not appointed. And we say that there is a commitment of time and that if they can't make that commitment, then, we'll reach out to them to see if we can work with them or they can step back. I think it's important that a lot of young girls, a lot of young people applying to colleges like to have those things on their resume. So you have to make a point of saying there is a time commitment and involvement necessary. We found, just as a piece of advice, that for the first 6 months with our Athena Council, we spent a lot of time just building a cohesive group, teaching them to lean on each other, to depend on each other, to be comfortable speaking to each other. And that certainly paid off this past year. What the article is about is they held a listening circle about mental health for young people, high school students primarily, but middle school also. And then they put all the statistics together that they captured, and they made a presentation at a legislative ice cream social where we invited legislators, school committee members, principals, superintendents, and they presented and a PowerPoint presentation, the findings, and it was overwhelmingly clear that everybody that was there was eating this up. They made their information they shared was put in a way that made it easily identifiable and useful to legislators. And as a result of that, a liaison from Senate President Karen Spilka's office was at the meeting. And the day after the meeting, she reached out to me and asked if the Athena Council girls could come in and give a presentation to Karen Spilka and to her group of researchers. And she has a group of young people that she's had for years that work on legislative issues. And they were just phenomenal. And it showed that the time we spent building that cohesive group really paid off. It's really easy. You know, you get these girls together and you say, what do you want to talk about? And they have ideas and you let them run, but they have to learn to depend on each other, which also helps to keep them coming because they don't want to let their fellow people down. So we have been really happy with it. It's been very successful. They're doing their retreat of the group now with the 5 new members this weekend, and they're doing one of those escape room retreats, you know, where a bunch of you go in and you have to figure out how to get out. And they're really looking forward to it, and it will help them to learn to depend on each other. So that is their goal for this week, and they're already starting to talk about the issues they want to focus on. So one of the things we're hoping to put together that I've started working on, our goal in forming this was to teach young women the power of their voice, and that one voice can make a difference. And so we're promoting advocacy and how you can do that. So we're putting together an advocacy booklet specifically targeting young people who oftentimes feel that they're not heard or they're not listened to. And we try to connect them to legislators as much as we can. They all feel that this is something important now, and they've really bought in, and we're so proud of all of them. So, and I see a question in here. It is not funded. We have chosen, we have used grant money, like for our ice cream social and things like that. We submitted in a grant submission this time to pay for the retreat and an event that they're planning. We were willing as commissioners to get this off the ground. We all helped to get it up and started. It wasn't a big expense, like for them, we'd supply coffee and muffins or something if they were having an in-person meeting. But actually this started right at the beginning of the pandemic. So there hasn't been a lot of in-person, and there wasn't a lot of expense to the initial outlay. But now that we can meet in person, and now that we have such generous support from the State Commission, we'll be using some of that to fund some of the work they do.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And yes, I'm glad you touched on that, because if any of you are looking, and Jen had a question real quickly, but if any of you are looking to create a youth advisory council, Athena Council, whatever you decide to call it, you can include that in your grant funding because it is part of your mission. I mean, that's an extension of you. So I just want you to know that whatever socials, things like that, your groups are going to plan, please do wrap that up into your grant proposals. And Jen had a question about supervision. Stephanie?
Sure. We, all of the commissioners, we asked who would be interested in leading this group. So we have one primary leader from the commission who attends the meetings, who we really let the girls run it. But one of our commissioners, the same one, is always there to take notes, to, if there is any issue that comes up, to drive it. This year, we've appointed a second person who was willing to take this on, because it's not always possible for the one that we had to make all the meetings. We try as commissioners not to attend every meeting. We feel it's important for them to have a sense of this is about them, not about us, but whenever we're invited, we always attend. But so there's primarily one commissioner who oversees and supervises, and then a backup commissioner for when she can't make it.
Great, thank you so much. Any other quick questions about youth advisory councils? And thank you, Upper Middlesex, Essex County, Metro West, for sharing your good work in this area. Any other questions? On your agendas too are links to 2 events. One is happening this Thursday that I'll be attending. And then there's another one on there that was shared by Worcester County. So if you're interested, there are a couple of events there that are very focused on girls initiatives. So I put that in your agenda. I'm going to move, and I'm mindful here of the time. I'm going to move into just a real quick update. Meredith Tuitt, our Commissioner Tuitt, wasn't able to join us this evening. She had another commitment, but I wanted just to give a couple of updates. And as I'm going to all of your meetings, I have been updating you quickly. I'm dropping in the chat, which is these are the legislative priorities that the state set over the last 2 years, and it's slowly kind of dwindled down based on what's still active and what has been completed. So you can take a look at that, and I'll just give you a quick update from the meeting this afternoon. Driving Families Forward, which Augur had talked about earlier, that has moved to a ballot initiative. So that's going to be on the ballot. Augur is correct that there is some pushback on it as well. So you can expect to see it on the ballot, and you can also expect to see those in opposition and those in support. So we're probably going to hear a lot about that going up to the next election. Common Start is still in motion. I know that Shaitia and our new Program and Research Director, Shalea West, attended a retreat today, I believe it was. So they're still working on that. They have not given up. There was a little bit that they were able to get last year, but it wasn't everything that they were looking to do. So I expect that that will continue to be a state priority going into the next legislative cycle. There were some conversation, and then there were some conversations with the legislative committee. And any of you or your legislative committee members are always welcome to attend those. But the commission right now is starting to have conversations about what they want their priorities to be for the next 2-year cycle. So if you have a strong feeling about anything, now's the time to show up. So to start, to come to the legislative meetings, voice your thoughts on what you think the state commission should be considering. I will just tell you, there was some really good conversation this afternoon around IUD, Planned Parenthood, those types of related issues. There was a whole lot around affordable housing. There's a whole lot of conversation happening about aging in place and aging into poverty. So the state commission is really beginning to look at older women and what issues might affect them. So these were some of the conversations that were happening today. LGBTQ plus continues to be something they really want to focus on in the next 2 years. So, so those are some conversations that'll be happening. Reverse mortgages, things like that, they were kind of discussing this afternoon. So for the next 2, November, December, and then going into January, you can expect that the state commission will be starting to do their grid, their kind of matrix work, and starting to narrow down what their legislative priorities will be for these next 2 years. So again, if you have something that you're concerned about, now's the time to show up. I will update you very quickly. There is an issue that is getting a lot of attention on the state level, and it was brought to us by Cape Cod and the Islands, and that is SANE nurses, which is Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner. Kind of in a nutshell, Department of Health has decided or trying to move in a direction where everything in the Cape and Islands region is going to move to tele-SANE. And so they're kind of moving into that direction. I think they still have some physical nurses at certain parts of the day, but they're kind of moving in a direction of just making that telehealth. And there was at the Provincetown public hearing last week, the SANE nurses showed up in full force with several of our Cape and Islands legislators to speak out against this. And the state is listening. The state is preparing to take a position on this, and they've been discussing it for the last 2 legislative meetings. Linda, I've already reached out to Sue, and you, I think, because we would like you to partner with us because it's happening in your region. with the state so that there'll be the state and the regional Cape and Islands signing on to this letter. So the state is going to take a position on this. So that is kind of an example of how something in your region is going on. And the concern is if it's happening in Cape and the Islands, how soon it's going to happen out in the Berkshires and Hampshire, Franklin and Hampden counties and then move inward. So this is an example of how you can get involved and share your voice. Linda, go ahead.
If you can have a letter or something ready, because our next meeting is in a week.
Yep.
And on the 12th.
Yep.
So if you can have something that our full commission could put their stamp on, that would be great.
Yep. And the letter has been written. I think there were just a couple little tweaks to it, and then I will send it to you. So
Excellent.
yeah, that will be coming. But this is a very, very good example for all of you. If there is something happening in your regions, please bring it to my attention so I can route it to the Legislative and Public Policy Committee, and then show up, and show up and really push the state. I mean, I have to commend our state commissioners. They really stepped up to the plate on this same nurse issue and are really taking a strong position with the Department of Health. I actually sat in on a meeting last Friday with a couple of members of the Department of Health, and they're making some really strong statements, the state commission. So I'm really kind of proud of the position we're taking on that. Jen, go ahead.
Is this on just sexual assault nurses, or is this like nurses across the board?
This particular issue is the same nurses. So it's a sexual assault nurse examiner. So this specific issue is about sexual assault. So if somebody comes in, hypothetically, then they're looking at a big TV monitor being zoomed over with the help of an ER nurse. But there's a whole lot to this that it's just not, a woman has already gone through something, and it's just not a compassionate way to take care of someone. Go ahead, Linda.
To answer Jen's question, it's the start.
Yeah.
Because the Cape is getting more and more limited on access to health care. And this really, there is so much of the children's mental health that is being done by Zoom meetings. And I know the polite term is telehealth, but it's a Zoom meeting for some kid to be talking to somebody on the other side of the state. It's the tip.
Yeah. Yeah, good point, Linda, because this is the concern that if it starts here, how's it going to expand in other areas, in other regions? So yeah. Any other questions? I think that was it. Oh, and then just a couple of upcoming hearings. The next state public hearing is in Pittsfield, November 17th. So Hampden County, maybe even Hampshire, Franklin, I might be tapping into you too, just to work with you on just getting folks there to speak out. And this is what happened in Provincetown last week, Cape and the Islands. The same nurses showed up in full force at that public hearing. So I'll be reaching out to you to make sure on all the counties in Western Mass that we get a really good turnout. It's important that we hear those issues. And then in Lynn, Essex County, and I will probably be going over into Upper Middlesex. Thursday, January 19th will be that hearing. So the state's kind of doing their listening tour this year. They're trying to get out into, 3 different parts of the state. And we really just want women to show up. We want to hear what's going on, because that really does guide a lot of the legislative priorities that the state will take a position on. Any questions before we wrap up?
When is the Pittsfield one again?
Pittsfield is November 17th. And that's going to be, there's a main library in Pittsfield. I'll make sure I get that to Hampden County and Hampshire, Franklin. Okay. There's a main library, the main library in Pittsfield. So we've got that room reserved. I'll get that information to you. And it will be hybrid. It will be hybrid, and it will also be hybrid in Lynn. I know Stephanie Taylor came and joined us from Bristol into the Provincetown one. So it is hybrid. So if you can't physically be there or have people, they can come in via the Zoom room. Yeah, Stephanie?
Just wanted to mention real quick that Audrey Hall from the State Commission does a local access TV show, and she had Heather and I on to talk about the commission. And I just encourage people that every community has local access. We do PSAs when we're having events. They're free. You just go in, you can do a PSA. It runs on the cable access station. So it's a good connection to make. So just a thought.
Yep, thank you. A good one. Jim?
So just to be clear, this is not tailored to just Berkshire County. This is kind of like the state commission putting this together. It is all of Western Mass, if you will, or whomever wants to attend. But I just want to make sure that this is open to anyone and everyone. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And they've been kind of strategic in where they put these, like with, even though Provincetown was the location last week, we still had Bristol County, Plymouth County, we still kind of sent out our outreach into those areas to pull them in. So for Pittsfield, yeah, we'll be working Western Mass. When we get to Lynn, we're going to be running all down that middle of the state. So it's not exclusive to just where it is. Yeah, and that's why we did the hybrid. That's why we're offering the hybrid, so other people can show up. Yeah. All right, and then they're going to be listening for the themes and kind of going across the state to kind of see where some of the themes are as they really look at some of their legislative priorities. All right, any other questions before we wrap up? Thank you all. Always appreciate your good work. I'm always available if you need me. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Night,
Bye-bye.
everyone.